Well, hello. My name is Danita Sims, and I am the founder and executive director of Passion Pursuit Inc. It's a local nonprofit here in DeKalb, and it is my pleasure to help our job seekers get tools that they need so they can succeed in the workplace. Find the jobs they're looking for, maybe switch careers. And one of the ways that is very, very beneficial is to be able to master writing a winning resume. So one of the ways that we do that as a resume writer, I've been doing this type of work for a little over 10 years. And one of the joys in doing this is how simple it can be if you have the time. So I like to encourage my job seekers to be able to take a look at things like job descriptions, company mission statements, and then any training or that they've experienced or any volunteering that they've done in the community, because a lot of those descriptions can help you explain the things that you're great at and that most companies, to be honest, are looking for, whether you're looking for an entry-level job, management position, mid-level management, or if you're trying to switch industries, which is kind of a challenge on paper. Most people do very well expressing themselves in the interview, but it is during the application time, which is when the resumes are most viewed, that can be a little tricky. Like, how can you describe your transferable skills on paper? And so that's what this workshop today is all about. And I want to thank our DeKalb Township for providing resources to our job seekers. And so one of the things that I like to express, number one, is what Passion Pursuit even does. So we're a local 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're founded in 2019, so we've been here for a while. And since being the founder and executive director, I've actually worked for local workforce agencies since 2009. So I've worked in DeKalb County, throughout DeKalb County actually, but also have served clients and job seekers in Kane and Kendall counties as well. And, I found joy in the case management portion as well as business development. So I've worked with employers and job seekers to make a match, what they're looking for versus what we're looking for. And Passion Pursuit is all about enhancing your personal brand and translating your vision into a self-sufficient career path. Now, some people ask me, Danita, what in the world is personal brand? So personal branding in general is more about being intentional about your strategy to create the persona you want others to see. So you're creating how you're presenting yourself to the world. Now, a lot of times this has to do with advancing your career, specifically increasing your influence and maximizing your impact. So whether you are trying to start a business, whether you want to be an entrepreneur, whether you want to move up in your career, transition your careers, or you're just starting out, you want to look a certain way to those employers as well as potential customers. So personal branding is more about making sure that persona looks great before anyone even meets you. And then that process of personal branding can include a few things. And we kind of find resources and support around this for all of our clients, depending on where they are, they might need one or all of these things. So the process of personal branding includes discovering what makes you unique, communicating the problem that you solve, documenting your performance, getting honest feedback from those who know your work, and then finding out how much your solutions are worth. And really that last part is how you figure out what salary you should be looking for or how much you should charge as an entrepreneur. So the idea of personal branding really, that it is an ongoing process, and you just continue to tweak it as you move forward in your career. Now, how do resumes fit in that? Actually, a resume can help address the top 3 steps in the process that I just described in personal branding. So resumes can do a few things. They can help address the discovering what makes you unique part. And again, this is why it takes a little time and effort in the beginning, but once you get a good resume together, you don't have to recreate it every single time. You can just continue to tweak it or build on it. It also helps with communicating the problem you solve. Like when you're thinking about whether it's entrepreneurship or even your career, what do you bring that employer? Like how can they find value in hiring you specifically? And then the third point, documenting your performance. Now, most people don't think about this part when they're writing their resumes, but if you have provided some type of skill set, some type of high value, especially if it's recognized by your employers, you want to make sure you're documenting that on your resume as well, with percentages preferably. So if you know, let's say that your sales records were improved after your training, maybe your department performed at a certain level before you got there. Maybe that's something they told you during an evaluation. And maybe at the end of 3 months, a quarter, which would be a quarter, or 6 months, or at the end of the year, there's some type of performance tracking, hopefully, that's done. You want to keep track of those. So even if you keep track of those records later, you want to add them to your resume. Numbers and percentages look awesome, especially if it shows growth or any type of increased revenue for that company. So again, it's a good way to document your performance. Another way is also including any numbers as far as how many people you served. So if maybe, let's say you came in, you didn't have a team, but as you progressed through the company, you ended up supervising 3 other staff. You want to make sure that that's communicated on your resume. And again, this is all under personal branding, but resumes can really, really be a good tool and a good foundation to make sure your personal brand shines bright. Now, what is a resume in general? Most people assume they know what it is, but then I get their resume and it's only like 3 lines of information on it. So if they don't do a good job of this, which is a resume is a formal document itemizing your work experience, education, qualifications, as well as unique talents, skills, and abilities. Again, why would an employer pick you over maybe the other 100, 200 people, applicants that they receive? What makes you unique? What do you provide? And the quickest way to answer this is to try to think back to experiences you've had or what employers have said about you on the job. But also another way to think about your unique talents, skills, and abilities are anything that you've completed outside of the typical job description. Now, most of us, if you're a hard worker, if you have a job history, I'd say longer than 7 to 10 years, you've probably gone above and beyond what your job description entails. It's just in you to do more than you're necessarily asked to do. So let's say you were hired for a particular position, but you either dedicated more time or you signed up for additional training outside of your specific job description in order to help out with a particular project. Maybe there was a time crunch coming up, or if you enjoyed working for a particular supervisor or boss, they might have asked you to do extra things that weren't necessarily your responsibilities, but it would help your supervisor or boss. If you've done any of those things, those are above and beyond your job description. Those should definitely be outlined on your resume. If you don't have them on there, I'm going to ask you for them. And most of the time I do a paragraph bullet format. So the paragraph is typically, this was my job description, this is what I did. The bullets that follow that paragraph are usually your unique talent, skills, and abilities tied to that specific role that you played at that job. So that's in general what a resume is for. Now, why do we even consider resumes? Why do you need them? And some people have asked this question because a lot of jobs will ask for an application as well. So you might hand them a resume, you might attach a resume, but the job application is also there asking for your work history. A lot of times I've encouraged people, when you fill out the job application, and let me pause, please fill out the job applications in their entirety. It's tedious. I know it's tedious to type it up, print it out, and write it down in the job application. They're asking for both, so please provide the employer with both. I've seen application packets be thrown out because there have been blanks in the job application for work history, or you'll just write "see resume." No, please don't do that. They're going to look at your resume anyway. But the job application is what the employer wants to know. So they're asking very specific questions. HR has to follow certain regulations and laws. And so they're asking for specific information. And a lot of times there's limited space. So you want to keep it concise. Job description, the job title, this is what I did with this role from this time to this time. But the resume empowers the job seeker. And this is why it's kind of my favorite thing to write. The resume is what we want the employer to know. So they get what they want to know in that job application. We're limited on how we can express ourselves. The resume and whatever actually we turn in, whether that's a cover letter, a letter of explanation for criminal background, even the thank you letter, we're communicating what we want the employer to know with those documents. And so that's why I spend a lot of time up front with clients to get their resume where they want it to be. Because honestly, once you do that, you don't have to keep looking back at that resume. It should be a good, powerful statement of who you are and what you bring to the table. The resume is also a good tool to use with you when you're in the interview, so you can remember all those wonderful things you knew how to do. We're not going to remember, especially if we're good workers and we have a long work history. We just do things because it needs to be done, or we just do things because we know it's going to be profitable. Either for ourselves or the company. And so because, we're in the middle of working, we don't think to write everything down. So that's why I spend my time with my clients, try to remember, think back to those wonderful things, get them on paper, and you can use it yourself during the interview. So you don't forget when they ask you those lovely questions. That where you draw a blank, you're still thinking about how you had to rush into the parking lot to be on time, or is your tie, do you have coffee on your tie, or do I still smell like cigarette smoke? Like, you're focused on that in the interview. So bring your resume with you so you can have all that stuff that you've done right there in your face as well. Bring extra copies so you can give it to the interviewer as well. But that's for the interview workshop. We're talking about the resume. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is top secret information. Okay, don't be spreading it around too thin. This is actually how I made a living for several years, just writing resumes. And my clients were from all over. And so this tip I'm going to share with you is top secret confidential information. Is everyone ready?
I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, get ready. I only share this information with a very few, but this is how I get most of my highest performing resumes done for my clients. They get results. They start to get responses from the employers they're actually looking to get hired for. They start to have more interesting conversations in the interview, and they also get a chance to express themselves clearly and concisely with the confidential secret I'm going to tell you. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. Actually, I use these two. These are the top two sources of where I get my tips for writing resumes: the job description and the company mission statement. Isn't that funny? It's very simple. It's a quick Google. A lot of times you can find it right after you see the position that you want to apply for. Why do I use this information, right? It's an extra step when you're applying for jobs. But let me tell you, if you're really interested in a particular role, you want to pay very close attention to the job description and the company mission statement. These words and terminologies can be said in so many different ways, and they can be repeated in your resume in so many different ways, but you have to pay close attention. Now, most of the time, my job seekers will see a job description and automatically assume that they are qualified for it. And so you apply, you add your resume, hit apply, send it, especially if you do Indeed, it attaches everything right away. Makes it simple. You can do it from your phone. You can apply to 5 or 6 jobs sitting there 20, 30 minutes. And so because it's so seamless, we don't always take a look at the words that are being used. So job description. Now, this is a real job description. I just pulled office administrators in general. Number one, if you don't have office or office administrator on your resume anywhere, you need to change that. Now, we could do this in a few different ways. There's a summary on the resume that you can use. And you can say you may have experience as an office administrator, or that you're eager to learn about the role of office administrator. And those are for my clients who are wanting to step into that brand new role. They've never done it before, okay? An office administrator is a professional who oversees operations. Stop. Do you have anywhere in your resume where it says oversees operations, operational control, manage of operations, operational management, efficient operations. Do you have any of those terms in your resume? If you do not, you need to find a place where that would fit. Now, I'm not advocating that anyone is misleading with their resume. What I am advocating for is to use the terminology to your advantage. We may not say, or this may not be part of our vocabulary, that we oversaw operations, but most of us who read that part of the sentence, we know exactly what that looks like. And we know if we've done it or if we haven't. So I would literally make sure I'm going through the resume to see if there's an opportunity where a client might have oversaw operations. Okay, so that terminology would be in the resume. And then as we keep going down, they are responsible for welcoming visitors, coordinating meetings, appointments, and directing various administrative projects. Now, there's a lot of terminology in there. They are responsible for welcoming visitors. Have you had to greet anyone? Most of us, if we worked at a front desk anywhere, doesn't matter what the industry is, we've had to welcome visitors. Coordinating meetings. Have you ever been the one that's in charge of texting or emailing or calling everybody to say what day and time would be best? That's coordinating the meeting. Have you ever had to get snacks or beverages, or have you ever had to, set up the audio visual tools and things like that? That is all a part of coordinating meetings. That's still something that you can use. Now, what I will say is if it's something you've done at several positions, don't repeat the exact same wording. And remember, I gave you examples of overseeing operations, right? We said that in a few different ways. So you can say the same thing without repeating yourself. The one word I always see multiple times in my clients' resumes and it drives me up a wall is manage. Manage. Yeah. Okay. There's so many different ways to say manage, coordinate, govern, control, lead, supervise, oversee, led, directed. There are different ways to show that you were over some type of task, project, whether you were the only person or whether you did it with a team. So you could even say co-led or co-directed if there were others involved, in order to not take the sole credit for a particular project or initiative at the company. So there are so many different ways. And if you're not sure on how to say some of these things, because I actually have a bachelor's in English, so I understand words are my thing. Words may not be your thing, so that's okay. Google will be your best friend. Literally type in what's another way to say, either manage, lead. They will give you so many synonyms. It's like, it'll be so many different examples you can use. And sometimes we just forget. If you're not having to write for work or anything like that, you just forget how to say certain things in a different way. Why do we need different ways? Because reading can be boring, especially if you're not reading for enjoyment. So just imagine a potential employer, they've never met you before. They don't even know if you're going to take this job serious, and they have to suffer through reading through pages and pages of resumes just to get the type of person that they're looking for a job. So we want to make it concise. We don't want to be repetitive because we don't want to lose their attention. And believe it or not, employers are only going to take a few seconds to look at your resume. That's it. They're not sitting there reading 6 pages. Right. So it might be beautiful. It might be a great essay. It might even turn into a good novel for you. That's great. That's a whole different, section. We can talk about self-publishing later. Today, we're talking about your resume. Please don't give them more than 2 pages. 2 pages is max. And we're talking if you got 15 plus years of experience and maybe a couple degrees or a couple certificates under your belt. If you don't have that, I would stick to 1. We want to grab their attention because we want the interview. That's the point. That's why we're looking at the job description and the company mission statement. Now, the company mission statement is its own kind of thing. They're very lofty. It usually sounds like the company wants to save the world in their own way. But believe it or not, they have a group of people who figured out what they wanted that mission statement to say. And more than likely, the higher up, so we're talking higher executives, would pay attention to this type of language. So if you look at that first example of a company mission statement, to inspire humanity, both in the air and on the ground, right?
Yeah.
What?
Right.
Sounds like it may be some type of airport, airplane, something company. But what does that mean, to inspire humanity? But the keywords that I see there are inspire and humanity. And then I'm hearing air and on the ground. So those are locations. And then I'm hearing this really lofty inspire humanity. Now, the terminology and mission statements, I would more than likely play around with your summary. Summary usually comes right after your name, contact information. So there's like a summary statement of who you are. A good way to think about a summary statement is an answer to the question, tell me about yourself. Okay, so when an employer is asking, tell me about yourself, they don't want to know about your cats and dogs and your kids and that you like to play Frisbee and that you're in this league for football. If it doesn't have anything to do with the job, keep it to yourself. Or the industry, keep it to yourself. So if you happen to know that the person that's interviewing you is into dogs, maybe you bring up dogs, just to have a point of reference. But really, when they're asking you, tell me about yourself, they're wanting to know in relation to this job that you're applying for. So inspire humanity might be a terminology I may use in that introduction. I may say something to the effect of, I'm a talented office administrator who enjoys bringing, people of multiple, varying skills and backgrounds together to accomplish a common goal for the organization, right? That sounds really, really nice. But that just says that you know how to lead teams, right? You know how to see the bigger picture and make sure everybody in your team is on board. And that may be a place I may add inspire humanity. Maybe that's a part of our goal as an organization. Maybe even in the cover letter, I might even say, I understand your organization has a huge heart for inspiring humanity. I have talents in that area because I'm a great team leader and I know how to look at the big picture and bring teams together so they can meet a common goal. Again, it's a roundabout way of leveraging that company mission statement to make sure that you understand the company as a whole. So when we understand the bigger picture, it's easier for us to play our part as individuals, and employers know that. Leaders know that. And when I say leaders, I mean leaders kind of in the corporate world that are used to dealing with multiple people at a time. Another way to look at that, I'm looking at that second one, to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Okay, the world? The company wants to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Again, very lofty idea, right? But these are what mission statements are all about. The bigger picture, what do we want to do as a whole? And they kind of look future, right? They don't look, okay, we're just hiring people to do this job. As a company, they're looking at the bigger picture. They're looking at how to maximize revenue, influence in their industry, and maybe even scalability, maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line. Employers aren't looking about the next 2 weeks. And some of us need the next 2 weeks to work, right? As job seekers, but employers have to look beyond the next 2 to 5 years. They have to look 15, 20, sometimes 30 years in advance to say, okay, are we ready? And so that's how they come up with these mission statements that are so lofty. But the one thing I do see there, and I don't know if others picked it out either, but sustainable energy. If you're working for a company that has this lofty vision of sustainable energy, do you have that phrase anywhere in your resume? And a lot of times I tell people you want it to be natural for you. So let's say you don't necessarily have any experience with sustainable energy. However, in your intro, in the summary, right at the beginning, you might want to add a line that you're interested in exploring leadership opportunities in sustainable energy industry. You see how that was? Yeah. I threw it in there. I don't have experience specifically in that industry, but I would love to explore leadership opportunities there because this is the employer that I'm applying for at the time. So even if it's just, something that you tweak for that particular employer, don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid to slow down and do that, especially if you're looking for higher level positions. Now, entry level, I might not necessarily say that's required because they're gonna tell that you're entry level. You may not have as long of a employment background. You may not have extended training. So it's gonna be obvious that you're coming into a situation where you're just ready to learn and ready to accept whatever they have as your path and your next path in your career. The next bullet, I have no idea where to go for this. Spread ideas. It's very short, but that is an actual company mission statement, but to spread ideas. I mean, and that's no responsibility of what kind of ideas, if they're good or bad ideas, just the idea of spreading ideas. So that may be something that's more free form. So I would say if you wanted to include some verbiage about that, since the idea of spreading ideas, spread, another word for spread is maybe sharing, maybe advocating, and then the idea that spread ideas, I mean, that's a lot of like thought, allowing people to think for themselves. And so a lot of that terminology, again, may be used in your intro statement, if that's something you're interested in. Because it's short and sweet like that, I wouldn't worry about it if a company has something short and sweet like that, because you can go a lot of different directions with that. And the last one there is to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. Okay, so there's a lot with that one, I would say. Connecting the world's professionals gives kind of the connotation that they're connecting people who kind of already have it together. So in that instance, communication would be huge. How to talk to people who may have higher levels of education or maybe executive positions, CEOs, CFOs, things like that. If you had experience working with people at the executive level, another terminology for that group is stakeholders. So business stakeholders is another terminology you could use. If you had any experience, whether that's maybe it was setting up a meeting, or maybe it was a brainstorming session that they had, or maybe it was a time where you were being cross-trained and you had to connect with some of the executive level professionals, that's a good time to bring that up if that's something that comes up in that job description or in that company mission statement. Bring it up in your summary, or even better, bring it up in the specific job that you've held where you had that experience. And then it talks about making them more productive and successful. A term that's not seen a lot in the resumes I receive initially is productivity. And a lot of what we do as workers is to either increase or improve productivity. And productivity just means we're just making sure everything works well together. Efficiency means that maybe you got rid of anything that was slowing us down. Efficiency means make it run better, smoother, faster. You can use productivity in so many different ways. And then successful is another word I don't always see. Successful means you got it right. So let's say you were put on a project and it went over smoothly, it accomplished all the goals that you were asked to achieve. You can say successfully at the front of that description of that on that bullet for one of your jobs. So if you did it successfully, and more than likely somebody said something about it. So if they did, you always want to mention, hey, supervisor expressed successful completion in XYZ. Or you can literally say received notes on evaluation based on performance. Repeatedly, successfully achieved goals. I didn't say anything, but I said a lot, right? I didn't give any specifics, but I said a lot just with that line. And again, you want to keep it short and sweet, but you do want to be expressive, whether it's to show success, completion, efficiency. You want to express those ideas because the employer needs to know how awesome you are. And if you get stuck on expressing how awesome you are, you don't really know how to say it. Again, the job description and mission statement of that company plays a big role on how to say it. And again, most people, I've rarely come across people who don't understand a job description. Most people, we see a job description, we know exactly what they're saying. We just don't use that same terminology on our resume. And I think we lose out when we do that. This is my top secret, hidden tip of the century for resume writing. I literally go to job descriptions and company mission statements. I will ask my clients for the type of positions they're looking for. Most of them will have a specific job title that they're looking for, and none of the terminology will be anywhere on their resume, even though they feel very strongly that they can do the job. An employer won't know. You know, most of the time, job seekers and employers, I say, are speaking completely different languages. And so my role is to encourage job seekers to make sure all of this fabulous stuff that employers say they want and need is actually in the resume. And yes, it is worth it. It is absolutely worth it. So you want to make sure you're taking a look at these two things specifically, and make sure that you're including them in your resume. If you've done it, if you have that talent or skill, you want to make sure it is blatantly in that resume. And I can show you how to do that, or you can stop by and have an appointment here at the township, DeKalb Township. We'll do that. This is the QR code to our free resume review. It's actually, I don't know if anyone has heard of the ATS scans, but an ATS scan is really something that a lot of employers will use if they get a lot of resumes. So if they're hiring for a position that pays well, I think the more popular positions now are those that are remote, really. So if they have those positions, let's say the position has benefits, let's say it's a position that's very competitive. And what we will do is, what the company will do is run your resume through a machine to scan for keywords, right? Mm-hmm. And so what happens is that means that resume doesn't first get seen by an actual person. It gets run through a scanner electronically to see if the person matches with the job description that they've sent out. So see why it's so important? You want to make sure. So the QR, now it's a free scan. All you do is you go to the site, you can upload your resume right then and there. Within a few days, you'll get a response back to say, based on what the ATS scan has shown, these are the type of jobs you qualify for. It does look at job titles. One of the things that screws up the ATS scan, though, is if you have a lot of graphics. So if you use like a Canva or Adobe or some of these templates that have really cool like blocks or shapes on them, then it just really looks nice. It's visually appealing. Right. If the ATS scan reads it, if it's too many graphics, the ATS scan reads it incorrectly. So they don't even see your name. The job titles are misplaced because they're also reading the graphics. They can't pick up the graphics. So they're searching for the words, but the graphics are on top. And so it's hard for them to find it. So there's some resumes that people have given to me, and I've taken out a lot of those graphics because I know it won't be picked up in the ATS scan properly. So it's not to make it look bland, but we want you to be able to pass those scans because, again, if a company, and there's a lot of companies that use it, if they use it, no one's actually looking at your resume. So it might get thrown out before an actual person sees it. And we don't want that. We want it to get to a person's eyes who's actually going to be making decisions. So we have that link, and it's up on our website as well, at passionpursuitinc.org, if you need to get your scan. Now, again, like I said, it's just through email. It's nothing you have to pay for. And I just want to share a little bit about who I am. So my name is Danita Sims. I go by Coach Danita, and leave you with information about Passion Pursuit. Listen, this is my heart. So I love doing these talks and workshops. The goal is to make sure people can step into a self-sufficient career path, whatever that may look like. So that may take a few transitions, and that's quite all right. I am a licensed life coach and a published author, so I do have fun with our aspiring authors. We meet once a month. So if you're looking at publishing a book as well, let me know. That's another source of income for a lot of my clients as well. So we want to make sure that book gets out for you if you're interested. And I just want to thank you for spending time. If you have any questions about this presentation, feel free to call or text us. That's the email for our organization. And you can find us on our socials as well if you'd like to follow all of our shenanigans events. We like to partner with different organizations locally to help support our youth who are looking for entrepreneurship, to help support second chance citizens who are looking to get back into the workforce. So we have a lot of partners and events that come up, and we just like to help out. We like to get everyone where they like to be in their career. So thank you for joining us. We hope you follow us and have a great day.
That was nice. Thank you.
Thank you.